Let's go, dickheads! Woo! Season 2, let's go. Let's get it.
Are you a uni student or an early professional with no real time, money, or skills? You've come to the right goddamn place. Welcome to The Bad Chef. Fast and cheap meals for fast and cheap people.
Welcome back to The Bad Chef. It's been a little while, but I've got a hell of a season lined up for you guys, so here's a sneak preview of what's to come.
Yeet! You smell like musty shit! Hat now.
Yeah.
Fisting.
French onion. Culinary dildo.
Hot dog doggy! Why?
Shit. Nice. If you're new to this channel, welcome. What I'm about is fast, easy, and cheap meals for people with no real time or money, or skill even, to be honest. I'm an incredibly average domestic chef with fists of ham and a brain of impatience, so if I can do it, you definitely can. But speaking of fast and easy meals, I realized that last season I didn't cover one of the fastest and easiest things to make outside of instant noodles, and that is a sandwich.
Sandwiches have been a Western staple for portable lunch solutions, usually configured in a pattern of bread, filling, then bread. They're the perfect engineering solution for modular foods, as each and every bite contains the same ratio of filling to bread across the entire sandwich.
Now, anybody can make a PB&J or a Devon and ketchup sandwich, so today I'm going to reach straight for the top shelf and show you my favorite sandwich. And that is a steak sandwich.
The reason why I like steak sandwiches so much is because they're simple, but with the right ingredients, you can turn something regular all the way up to 11.
Now, we've touched on steak before in S2E1, so today I'm going to go into a little bit more depth and talk about the 4 main cuts of steak that you should be able to find in your local supermarket. But if you don't want to hear about cuts of steak, I'm going to include a timestamp somewhere below here, so you can skip forward if you want to just see some cooking. Anyway, let's talk about steak. The first one I want to talk about is this one, rump steak.
Rump is what are considered to be the entry-level steak, and it's taken from the ass cheek of a cow. It's a little bit tougher than the others because it's a cross-section of 3 different muscle groups which lay over each other perpendicularly like plywood, but it's large, flavoursome, and you get a fair bit of bang for your buck.
If you're looking for a bulk feed, rump steak is probably your best bet. Prices start roughly around 25 Australian dollars per kilo. Now, the second cut that I want to talk about is the porterhouse.
The porterhouse, or the New York strip, comes from the lower back of a cow. If you had to analogize it with your own body, it's your erector spinae, and it's got great moisture and flavor to it, so it serves really well as an all-rounder steak with some good potential for marbling.
Mind you, because it's a working muscle, porterhouse tends to have a little bit more chew than the other steaks, but in the same pleasant kind of way that al dente pasta has when it bites back a little bit as well. But yeah, expect prices to hover at somewhere around 32 Australian dollars per kilo. Now, the third cut is eye fillet. This is considered to be the Rolls-Royce cut of beef.
It's also part of the lower back next to the spine, but it's deeper inside the body than the porterhouse. If you want to know on our bodies, it's the psoas major muscle.
Now, it's super tender because the muscle isn't required to do that much work. And because it's quite lean, you could use it in raw beef dishes like steak tartare or carpaccio. However, since it's so small and there's a limited amount per cattle, prices start at about 45 Australian dollars per kilo and go all the way up to about $65 per kilo for the grass-fed variants. Now, I'm going to touch on T-bone steaks lightly because T-bones aren't really an entirely different cut of beef altogether. Rather, they're like a 2-for-1 combo of porterhouse and eye fillet. The reason why is because when you take the cross-section of the back of the cow, the spine separates it back into 4 meat quadrants, with the top 2 being porterhouse and the bottom 2 being eye fillet. So, when you cut the spine from top to bottom like this, you get 1 porterhouse on the top and 1 eye fillet on the bottom. So a bit of both if you like that sort of thing. Prices start at about 23 Australian dollars per kilo to about $27 per kilo. It's a bit cheaper to compensate for the weight of the bone, which is pretty nice. Now, the eye fillet may be considered the Rolls-Royce cut of beef, but those who know what's good will be partial to the ribeye steak, or the scotch fillet in Aussie terms.
The ribeye is a fatty, beefy, and tender cut of meat, found on the upper back between the rib and the spine. It marbles extremely well, so the fat in the steak picks up all the flavour and delivers it straight to the back of your face. Naturally, being so fatty, it's the most calorific cut of steak, but also the most delicious.
Also, if you're talking about 2-for-1 textures like the T-bone steak, the ribeye steak has something called the rib cap, which is everything the main body of the steak is like, only more. It's super tender, it's super fatty, it just melts in your mouth. And I rate this steak the highest out of any of the other steaks here, so we're going to be using this one today.
Scotch fillet usually runs around $36 per kilo, but specialty cuts like grass-fed or Wagyu ribeye can go from anywhere between $45 a kilo all the way up to $105 per kilo at supermarket chains.
On that note, if you can, buy local. It's usually fresher, it uses less packaging, it travels fewer miles, it's less mass-produced, and it's environmentally more sustainable than supermarket beef. And I find as well, even though it's a bit more expensive, it's usually a bit higher quality as well. But hey, it's up to you. Sometimes you only have half an hour a week to get your entire week's worth of groceries. So go to a supermarket if you fancy doing that. Anyway, when you're selecting a steak, you should go for something that's cherry red with a good amount of marbling. It shouldn't look dark or bruised anywhere on the steak. But if you're not that discerning, a good dipstick indicator is the expiry date on the package. Basically, if it's further away, the better it is. But yeah, enough about that. Let's get cooking.
Now, to cook the steak, we're going to leave it out on the counter for about 10 to 20 minutes to let the core come to room temperature. Then, we're going to season with only salt and pepper. Heat up a pan until it's searing hot, add a quick splash of oil, then drop the steak into the pan away from you. Sear the steak for around 2 minutes aside, and then leave it to rest.
Now, the best way to see if your steak is done is to use a meat thermometer. So if you want a rare steak, that's 50 degrees, medium rare at 55, medium at 60, medium well at 65, and completely ruined at 70 degrees C. But if you don't have a meat thermometer, you could use the hand method, which is comparing the elasticity of the steak to the base of your thumb when you touch different fingers. So this is rare, medium, medium well, and badly done. But if you work out a lot and everything feels like it's well done on your hand, you can just cut the steak open and see inside. I mean, you're the one eating it, it doesn't really matter that much. But aside from that, that's pretty much it. It's a fast and furious 5-minute cook. Now, the steak by itself can be a bit pedestrian, so today we're going to pair it with a fun and bright Mexican tomato salad called Pico De Gallo.
Pico De Gallo is a common and simple salsa that accompanies pretty much everything in Mexico. You know a serious Mexican when you see that the fridge drawer is filled with Pico De Gallo. But it's easy to make. All you'll need is 2 to 3 fresh, tight tomatoes, 1 lime, coriander, a red onion, and some salt. And there's nothing to it, just dice the tomatoes and onions, roughly chop the coriander, squeeze in the lime juice, and grind some salt into it. You'll also want to drain off some of the excess tomato juice first to keep the sandwich from going soggy, as the lime will pull out a lot of water from the tomatoes already. Then, give it a stir, let it develop for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's ready.
Now, the last part and arguably the most important part of our sandwich is the bread. And of course, I'm going to use my favorite bread, which is pan de casa, which means house bread in Spanish. It's thick, it's springy, super gratifying to eat, and also runs a bit cheaper than the other commercial loaves at about $3.50 to $4 per loaf. Yeah, we're also going to use a bit of cheese as well to stop our bread from going all soggy. Honestly, any cheese will do, but today I'm lucky to have a bit of camembert with me. So we're going to use that.
To build our sandwich, we're going to layer our cheese on our bread, then toast it. Then, slice up your beautifully cooked ribeye and layer the steak on top of the cheese. That way, the cheese will protect the bread from the sauces. To finish it off, spoon the salsa over the top, put the hat on its head, and then you're done.
And that's the entire sandwich done. If you're planning on taking this sandwich into the office, I'd recommend storing the salad separately, because if you use a contact grill to heat up the sandwich with the salad in it, it'll turn into a soggy mess, and warm salsa is a little bit bleh. So don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. You deserve better than that.
Oh my god, get out of here.
Jesus bloody Christ. I can eat the sandwich for days. I mean, yes, of course it's predictable, but not in a way that makes it uninteresting. The bread is fragrant and crispy, and the steak has this deep, solid, fatty flavor that complements the bright flavors from the salad so well. I mean, each component plays its own part, and the sum of all the parts together adds to something that is incredibly tasty. It's just a lot of little things done very well. It's something that's straightforward and uncomplicated. It's like a hug from an old friend. There's no heavy, lingering complexity to it. It's just a simple, friendly, happy event that should be done more often considering how easy it is.
In terms of cost, it varies quite heavily depending on what steak you use, but the cheapest one with rump steak will come to around $7, with the top end at closer to $10 if you use the ribeye. Granted, it's not the cheapest meal that we've done, but it's definitely one of the fastest, easiest, and tastiest ones, and not to mention the most portable too.
But that's it really. Elevate your bog standard sandwich with some quality steak, some good cheese, and a beautiful bright tomato salad. Beautiful. Steak sandwich with Pico De Gallo. Done.